Thank you, Muhtaz. I'm extremely impressed by the attendance. As a matter of fact, a few years back, I've attended a similar event, and the number of participants was much smaller. I congratulate you. I mean, you're doing a great job, Muhtaz. Thank you. I didn't prepare anything. I'm coming mostly to listen from you. But before, let me share a few information about the very heavy responsibilities I'm bearing, especially after No, it's all right. No. Especially after the Ministry of Investment has been added to my responsibilities in the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Basically, to start from where Mu'taz has ended, I'm extremely optimistic about the future. I'm extremely optimistic about the future for several reasons, but the first and main reason is that the Egyptian economy has proved to be extremely resilient. Yes, we are facing huge challenges, but I think we are up to finding solutions to the problems and to overcome those challenges. Let me, in a nutshell, tell you where we stand today in terms of trade, industry, investments, and in terms of public sector, the situation of the public sector, and where we are heading and how. I'm going to start with trade. Trade because the results of the first part of the financial year are extremely positive. The current account has recorded a deficit of $755 million as opposed to $4.9 billion last year. And this is the result of the reduction of the trade deficit. The trade deficit recorded the figure of 15.4 billion as opposed to 18.5 billion last year. A result of an increase, a substantial increase in exports and a decrease in imports. The balance of services obviously was reduced as a result of the crisis in the tourism sector, and yet it has recorded a surplus, small though, of some slightly less than $200 million. The big increase was in the transfers from Egyptians working abroad, and it reached the impressive figure of $14.5 billion US dollars as compared to $9.8 billion. Even the capital account recorded a surplus. It recorded a net inflow of $3 billion. The net direct foreign investments amounted to $2.8 billion, and the net portfolio investments amounted to $1.2 billion. Obviously, there were amounts that are outflows, especially due to the reimbursement of several deposits that were placed with the Central Bank of Egypt. And here I'm referring to the deposits from Qatar that were reimbursed. So, despite the very difficult year we're going through, the balance of payments at the end of the day seems to be on the right track. A very optimistic point to take into consideration when we're looking into the future. Investments, I'm talking of direct foreign investments, regardless of the figure that I just mentioned. I think Egypt is starting to get back the confidence of foreign investors. My colleagues here from the Investment Authority and from the Ministry of Investment will tell you that the number of requests we're receiving on a daily, weekly basis for investments are increasing by the day, literally. And more importantly, what is very, very interesting is the geographical distribution of those investments. We're seeing Chinese investors coming in, Southeast Asian investors, of course, in addition to Arab and especially Gulf investors. Today, the United Arab Emirates is looking at forming a joint investment company. We're still debating whether this joint investment company should be between governments or public sectors on both sides or between private sector. I'm personally advocating and voting and supporting the creation of that joint investment company between private sectors from both sides. The minister in charge of the economic relations between Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, Sultan Jaber, is coming tomorrow, and we're going to pursue the discussion that we started last week, but we, both of us, are extremely aggressive in respect of the constitution of such an investment vehicle, because the opportunities, the investment opportunities ahead of us are immense in several fields and several sectors. I have in mind petrochemicals, where we have great opportunities, but also mining, and I'm mentioning mining because the Canadian ambassador is here, and Canada could and should be a strong partner as far as mining is concerned. I hope Mr. Ambassador, I hope you're encouraged by those applause. With regards to investment, we are looking at improving the investment climate. And some steps have already been taken. We are reviewing the investment law, not to give more incentives, but the idea is to facilitate doing business in Egypt and to facilitate investments in Egypt. Bureaucracy remains a major hurdle and a major obstacle towards doing business in Egypt. And we need to solve this problem, and we will solve it. We are reviewing the first draft that was presented and approved by the previous ministry with regards to amendments that we're bringing in to the investment law in order to improve it, in order to increase the facilitation process that we are intending to apply. With regards to public sector companies, I think I will not say it's a big mess, because it is not always a big mess. I'm coming, well, yesterday I visited the iron and steel factory in Helwan with the Prime Minister, and this is a big, big mess. I mean, it is unbelievable what a mess it is. And the efforts and the amount of money that will be required in order to put this company on the right track is huge. But we have to do it. I mean, the capital that has been invested, not only physical, but human capital that has been invested in this company is immense, and it will be a pity to do without it. We intend to make this effort, and we hope to be successful. In this regard, since we're talking about the iron and steel factory of Helwan, we're going to receive, before the end of this week, a study that has been undertaken by Tata Steel, which is based in London. And we are going to take the necessary steps on the basis of the advice and the results of the study in order to put the company on the right track. Obviously, Mahalla Cobra and Kafr Dawar are also challenges ahead of us. But we are adamant. We're going to find solutions to this sector that is too important for Egypt, and that is and will remain one of the comparative advantage that Egypt enjoys. But on the other hand, we have extremely successful, although it isn't known, but extremely successful public sector companies that we are currently looking at financing in order to develop, and especially in the production of, well, I refer here to Kima, to Delta Lil-Asmeda. All those are files that Sharif know quite well, but we are looking to develop them and to heavily invest in this sector. Again, Egypt has a huge comparative advantage in this sector. Obviously, this is a sector where the feedstock is natural gas, and we have, as I'm going to talk about, a major energy crunch and a major deficit in the production of natural gas. But those are projects that will be ready for production by 2017, 2018. By then, we are confident that our energy crunch will be solved and our production of gas will increase and will put Egypt again on the exporting countries list due to the development of the proven reserves that are lying in the Delta and in the Mediterranean. So, again, within that optimistic view, I don't think that the public sector is a big catastrophe. I think we can put it on the right track. We can develop it, and we have very specific plans in this regard. Fourthly, I want to say a word about industry. Industry is facing several problems and several challenges, and the biggest of them all is obviously the energy deficit. The energy deficit is today putting a major constraint on the development of the industrial sector. It's a major constraint on economic development in Egypt today. And this is an extremely dangerous problem. Dangerous because it's very easy to say we have a constraint on economic development, but the result of this constraint is the increase of unemployment. And unemployment does not come alone. It comes with a lot of social unrest and with a lot of political risks. And we have to bear this in mind, especially at this specific juncture of our life in Egypt. A general rule as far as energy is concerned, and unfortunately it has not been taken into consideration in Egypt, is diversification. A country that is properly ruled should not rely on a single source of energy. As a banker would diversify his risks, I think a country, a well-managed country, should diversify the sources of the strategic it's energy. It's as simple as that. Egypt is relying to the level of 96% on oil and oil products as the source of energy. The other 4% being hydro energy from the high dam. And this is definitely not a comfortable situation to be in. So we need to diversify. We need to develop new energies, solar and wind. We need definitely at some point in time to develop the atomic energy. But all this is 3, 4, 5 years down the road. We need to solve the problem, our problem today. As a matter of fact, we need to solve our problem yesterday. Because each and every industrial project that is being proposed to us, whether to the investment authority or to the industrial development authority, has to go to the higher commission for energy, where they look to see whether the required energy is available or not. And more often than not, the required energy is not available and the project is refused or postponed. And we cannot go on like that. And this is why it was proposed to use coal within an energy mix. And unfortunately, for some reason or the other, coal has a very bad reputation. And it is looked at coal as being a dirty product. And it is not known that in most of the industrial countries, coal is one of the sources of energy. Even in the most conscious societies, conscious for the environment, and I'm referring here to the Western European countries in particular, and also to the Northern European countries. The consumption of coal in those countries has increased from 2002 to 2014 from a consumption of 2.4 million tons to a total consumption of 3.8 million tons. So an increase of more than 50%. And this increase is the result of two things. First of all, of technological development that has reduced the negative impact of coal on the environment, and it is the result of a huge increase in the cost of production of the other sources of energies, including the oil and gas and the atomic energy. So, countries, industries have gone to the use of coal, have chosen to the use of coal, which is much cheaper. And here in Egypt, with the crunch, the energy crunch we're facing, with the threat of the increased unemployment and all what goes with it, we thought of using coal. Unfortunately, as a result of the general polarization of the Egyptian society, we are facing extreme positions. It's either yes, for sure, coal, or either no, no, never, and it will never happen. And in my mind, both positions are wrong. It's neither an absolute yes or an absolute no. I mean, it is a necessity to bear the cost of solving the problem of our energy crunch. But we have to limit this cost to the maximum. Let me say that since we are here on Canadian soil, that Canada is getting out of coal. It's a fact. But on the other hand, let me say that in Germany, and I was today with people from Thyssen Group who came to discuss this specific issue, Germany is getting out of the atomic energy, but they're substituting the atomic energy to a large extent with coal, both for the production of electricity and in production of cement and iron and steel. And they are using the new technologies to reduce emissions to the maximum and to abide by the European norms of emissions, which are extremely difficult, but who are respected in those countries, and they are using cheap energy in order to continue and to support their growth. I believe that we need to have a societal discussion, and we need to come to terms. As a matter of fact, this kind of dialogue is needed in every realm of our life, in politics, in economies, but in also in specific cases like the case of solving the energy crunch we're facing. Again, as an ex-minister of industry told me, I won't mention his name because he's here, he said, yes, coal might be polluting, but unemployment is definitely more polluting. So I'll stop right there and open the floor to discussion. I hope I'll be able to hear your views and to learn from whatever you have to say. Thank you.